And alrighty, so my name is Cristina Rojas, and I'm one of the undergraduate advisors in the Department of Sociology. And then Sang will also introduce herself too.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sang Saley. I'm the other social advisor. I'm super happy that you guys are here and have joined us for this meeting.
Yeah, thank you all for muting yourselves. We appreciate it. Like I said, we'll have some time at the very end to do some Q&A. I think we're a small enough group where maybe people will be able to unmute themselves at the very end. In the meantime, if questions do come up, please enter them in the chat. So hopefully you all have seen on the sociology.berkeley.edu website that we have a section specifically for new junior transfer students. And we created these pages in the hopes that they will just provide you some general information that will help with the transition, including, for example, the info session information. On that second page, you'll be able to see our advisor contact information. So, our phone numbers are there. Unfortunately, we're not using those right now on campus, but you can access our email addresses from there. And we don't have a specific, I don't know if you've noticed on Cal Central that you eventually will be able to see advisors and schedule appointments there. We're not using that service right now. So if you have an interest after this session in scheduling an appointment with either one of us, just email us directly, and we can give you access to our calendar for you to be able to do that. So our email addresses are here on that page. One thing to keep in mind is that, I think with a university system like Berkeley, there are lots of different advisors and resources and offices. We have a few listed at the very bottom, including the College of Letters and Science, and then other offices, which are really great resources like EOP, Student Parent Center. We will, generally try to respond to any questions that you might approach us about, whether it's about the major or the college or graduating, for example. But we do have liaisons that we work with in the College of Letters and Science, Marisol Silva and Emilio Alvarado. So if at any point there's a need for us to refer you to folks in the College of Letters and Science, you can always check in with us and we can talk a little bit about that too. And then of course, we have folks that we've connected with at Athletic Studies Center, EOP, Transfer Center. So we definitely encourage you to utilize those resources as well, in addition to working with us too. So in the next section, I think Sang will take us a little bit through the requirements, how to declare Sociology 5, which I'm sure is something that a lot of folks are really anxious about. So
I'll go over the requirements. So a lot of transfer students believe that they only need to take classes in the department to get the degree, but that's actually not true. You actually have different sets of requirements that you need to complete in order to earn your degree. And one of the sets of requirements you actually need to do are the requirements from the College of Letters and Science. I'll just click on here. This will show you all the requirements that's required from the university, the college, and they actually do talk about major requirements, but they usually direct you to the major department. So either me or Christina. As Christina had mentioned earlier, there are college advisors that you would work with. So our liaisons, as Christina mentioned earlier, are either Emilio or Marisol, and they basically will go over this information with you. So Christina, I do have some knowledge on some of the requirements, and we can talk with you about it at we can talk with you about it, but more than likely we will redirect you to the College of Letters and Science to talk about their own requirements. And so then we'll go on to the Department of Sociology requirements. And so it'll bring you to this page here. So I'll just briefly land here. So this is all the requirements for the major. So there's a total of 11 for the major. The 3 prerequisites are at UC Berkeley, Soc 1, which is Introduction to Sociology. Most transfer students will have completed this at their community college. We also require an introductory research methods class, which is Soc 5. Most community colleges do not have the equivalent of Soc 5. We do have a list, and I'll show you where to check to see which community colleges do have the equivalent. It's about 14 in California. If you transfer from a four-year institute, another four-year institution, or a community college outside of California, then you'll work with me, Christina. We'll talk to you about the process of having that course evaluated, and we will let you know whether or not you completed that. We also have an introductory stats class or logic. So with that particular requirement, you can either do SOC 7. We have numerous stats classes you can do, and then we also have a logic class that you can do. And I'll go ahead and show you the list when we get a little bit further down. We do require 2 semesters of theory, Social 101 and Social 102, 2 survey classes, 3 social electives, and 1 capstone experience seminar. So if you scroll down, it'll give you more information about the actual requirements. So introductory to Soc. So most students will have done this at community college. Soc 5, most community colleges do not have that. If you click on this list here, it'll bring you to a Google Doc and it'll show you all of the community colleges that have it. So it's about 14, which departments they're offered through. Some of them are offered through both psychology and soc, the course number. Some community colleges will offer the equivalent sociology class online, and then the title of the class. So that will let you know whether or not you completed it or it's even offered at your community college. If you did not do it at your community college, that's fine, because most transfer students will do it at Berkeley. If you did not do it at your community college and you need to do it at UC Berkeley, we are actually pre-enrolling students to Soc 5. So you would only need to complete a Google Doc, and it's not right here, but I'll show you where to look for it, or I'll send you the link where you can fill out this Google form and you can state which discussion section you might be interested in. And I can talk about that a little bit later on. So our third prerequisite is this introductory stats or logics course. So if you notice here, there's actually a couple of classes that we will take. For the stats, we'll do Soc 7, Stats 2, 2021, 131A, Psychology 101, Comp Sci / Info Studies, Stats C8, or we also take a logics class, which is Philosophy 12A. If you did not complete the equivalent course at your community college, then these are the options that you have that you could do at Berkeley. If you already did a stats class, you do not need to do Soc 7. That question has come up quite a bit. It's come up quite a bit. And once you do the equivalent, most students do the equivalent of stats 2 at their community college. If you've done that, then you do not need to do Soc 7. We also take a 4 or 5 on the AP stats exam. So if you've gone at least a 4 or 5 on the AP stats, then you consider the requirement completed. Sociology theory. So we do require 2 semesters of theory. Soc 101 is classical social theory. 102 is contemporary social theory. It's a heavy duty class. It's about 5 semester units. These courses are to be taken in sequence. There's a possibility that you can take the class in the spring. You do need to be declared. If there's seats in that class for you, then you can certainly take 101 in spring. So if you take 101 in spring, then you'll take 102 in the fall 21. So sociology courses, you'll notice that they're all listed here. It's basically all end in 0. It's from 110 to 180. These are just general themes within sociology. So you'll see that 120 is economic sociology, 140 is political sociology. You need to just do 2. There are some students who need to do 3. And if it's a case that you do need to do 3 sociology surveys, me and Christina will have that conversation with you. Typically students that have to do 3 social survey classes are students who didn't do equivalent of Soc 1 at their community college, and so they end up transferring. You'll probably end up to do 3, but like I said, Christine and I will have that conversation with you. You'll have to do 3 sociology electives. Sociology electives are the ones that do not end in 0, like 121, 135, 149. There are more specific topics within one of these general themes. So if you take any classes in the 160s, they'll be culture related. If you take any classes in the 140s, they'll be political sociology type classes. And that's how our classes are organized. But please note that you don't need to do a survey before you do an elective, and you don't need to do all your electives within one of these streams. I think we call them or topics. So you can mix and match however you want. You could do surveys and electives, fall, spring, or summer. One is not harder than the other. We do get a lot of questions about that, and it just depends on the individual class. So a lot of you will probably pick one of these classes to do in the spring. And then your final requirement, which you probably will do your senior year, is a capstone experience seminar. It's also called just a Social 190. It is a class that where you'll do a research paper. We have usually 5 to 7 or 8 topics in the fall or spring. And in the summer, we have about 1 or 2 topics, and you'll do some sort of research paper based on that topic. If you're wanting to do the honors program, then you definitely should have a conversation with either me or Christina. So we do need to plan, we need to help you kind of work towards that and make sure that you're eligible. And we also need to talk about how to plan for that in your upcoming academics. So those are the requirements. One of the things that I do want to show you is that you can actually look for specific major requirements on the course catalog. So there's actually a couple of different ways to look for classes. You can either go through Cal Central, which I think most of you guys have done, but we also have the Berkeley Academic Guide, and there's a lot of information on this. You can actually look specifically for major requirements through this site. So classes.berkeley.edu. So the first thing that you would do is click on the term. So we obviously want spring 21. It'll take a couple seconds to upload. You'll notice on the left-hand side, these are basically just filters. So you can do the mode of instruction, asynchronous instruction if you want that, but I'm going to bypass that for now. So we're going to go down here to major requirements, select requirement year to be 2021. And okay, it'll take a couple of seconds to update. And then you'll have to pick the major. So obviously Soc. And then it's going to bring up all the major requirements. So if you notice here, it's broken up by prereqs. So there's 11 prereqs, and then it's all upper division courses. And this is what I should probably explain to you guys. So at Berkeley, courses, depending on the number, it tells you whether or not it's a lower division class, upper division class, or graduate level classes. So lower division classes are numbered 1 to 99. Upper division classes are numbered 100 to 199. And then any classes numbered 200 above are for graduate level student or for graduate students. So in your case, if you just want information about Soc 5, you can click on that and it's going to pull up Soc 5. This is helpful to look at this because you can actually see the number of classes for discussion section. So this will tell you the title of the class, who's teaching it. The lecture is Tuesday, Thursdays from 9:30 to 10:59 a.m. It's remote instruction. All the classes, all the social classes are. If you click on it, it'll tell you some information about the class. I think this is probably what's going to be the most helpful to you. So associated sections, or they're also called discussion sections. Sometimes I just say sections abbreviated. It'll give you the days and times, and it'll tell you, this is where I think this is helpful information. It'll tell you enrollment limit. So this one has a limit of 17. There's 6 people enrolled, and there's 11 open seats. So this is not in order, and the reason why is because it'll give you the section that has the most open seats. So if you go to the bottom, those should be probably full. I see like 110, there are no seats. So when I send you the link to enroll, for me to pre-enroll you in Soc 5, you can take a look at this and see the day and the time. So I think that's helpful. So let's go back though and look for some of the other requirements. Give it a second. So I'm going to click off on this. And so the upper division classes, if you wanted to look for just surveys, let's just click on that because there's only 5 of them. We'll take a look at that. So it'll bring up all 5 social surveys that we're offering for spring 21. It'll give you that same information. It'll give you instructor name, days and times, and it'll give you this information. So besides just looking at it for social requirements, if you're adding non-sociology classes, which the college will require you to do some non-sociology classes, a lot of times students will say, I tried adding this class that's not in the department, there's open seats, but why can't I add it? So if that happens to you, then you should come and look at this class schedule and see why, because then it'll tell you, okay, who are these seats reserved for? So right now, all 101 remaining seats are for social majors. So if a psychology major try to add this class right now, they would not be able to. And if they, knew to look on this website, they can come here and see like, why am I not able to add? Well, all the remaining seats are reserved for sociology majors. So we typically open our upper division sociology classes to non-majors in phase 2, which happens in November. So I think this is helpful information for a lot of different reasons. can click on that. And then, but if you wanted to look for sociology electives, you can also do that. There's 17 for you to do. So I will just give you, when you're looking at sociology electives, any of these classes, oh, I didn't click on electives. Give me 1 second. So any classes numbered from 106, 108, these are advanced methods classes. So typically we recommend that you do Soc 5 first. Soc 5 is introductory research methods. And then in a future semester, if you want to do one of these advanced methods classes like 103, it doesn't show right here, 105, 106, 107, 108, then you can go ahead and do it. But any other elective starting from 111 AC down to, I think it's like 189G, if you wanted to take that in spring, it'll be available to you. So I'm going to stop there. And I see there's a couple of questions. So let me just take a look at them really quickly.
Yeah, initially it was a question about Soc 5. If I could just say a couple things actually about Sociology 5. So earlier, Sang showed a list, like a Google spreadsheet of Sociology 5 equivalent courses. We will ultimately go by whatever's on assist.org. These are courses that have been submitted by the community college in California and have been evaluated by our faculty and determined to be equivalent to our Sociology 5 course. So they've covered both quantitative and qualitative methods, not just one or the other. So what gets tough sometimes is that sometimes, for example, take Sac City College, for example, if you went to ARC or Cosumnes or something like that, they might offer a course that's also numbered 305, but it's not considered equivalent to our Sociology 5 course. Only the Sac City's Soc 305 course is considered equivalent to Soc 5. So you can be within the same district, and sometimes even only one of the courses within the district has an equivalent class. So, it's assist. It's not like the most up-to-date thing. So occasionally new courses may pop up, but we may not necessarily know about every single new methods course that's offered at a community college. So it doesn't happen super often, but if for some reason you wanted your syllabus, your course evaluated, you could submit your syllabus to Sang or myself, and we could forward it to our faculty for evaluation. One of the other things to keep in mind too is that there's very different numbering from one community college to another. And that's also the fact at Berkeley. So for example, if you took, a Soc 101 at your institution, it's generally, or maybe it's Soc 300 at another, or maybe 120 at another. So just know that starting at Berkeley, that numbering system is restarting. Everything you took at a California community college is considered lower division. So like freshman, sophomore standing courses, and everything that you'll generally be taking for the major, with the exception of Soc 5, is usually going to be considered upper division. So it's going to be numbered between 100 and 199. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that sometimes folks, for some reason, feel like they have to take Sociology 3AC. So in addition to Soc 7, you don't have to take Soc 3AC. It's pretty like, if you've already taken Introduction to Sociology, there's partial duplication there. So if you're concerned about taking an AC course, which satisfies American cultures, we can certainly talk about other alternatives instead.
Yeah, I just want to add something too. A lot of students think that they've completed Soc 5 because they did a Soc 5 at their community college. So community colleges, we all have different, colleges all have different numbering systems. And even if it's the same, unless it's on this particular list, if it doesn't say it's equivalent on this particular list I have on the screen, then it's not. Because a lot of people take Soc 5 at, let's say, Berkeley City College. That's actually like minority groups, and that's actually not the equivalent of our research methods class. I just wanted to warn you guys about that. And there's a couple of questions in the chat session, so let me answer them. So Swan just asks, this is the question: when classes have reserved seats for sociology majors, does that not include us, since we are not able to clear in spring and are not yet considered social majors? So as of right now, all the continuing students are adding classes, and all the new students will add. I think your date is November 14th, I think.
Mhm.
I'm not sure, but I think it's somewhere around there. So once phase one ends for current students, we'll go into phase two. And then by then, our scheduler, we have a dedicated scheduler, Rebecca, and she will open up all the seats to non-majors in phase two. So so all the spring 21 junior transfers, you guys are not going to be able to declare on that date that your first day of enrollment, but our upper division classes will be open to you. If you see that there is open seats in any of the upper division sociology classes and you cannot add it, please email me, Christina, and we'll try to figure out why you wouldn't be able to add it. Yeah. So let
If
me
I can just add to, even though you applied to the university as a sociology major or another intended major, technically you're not officially declared in the major yet until you go through the actual declaration process. So most California community colleges, for example, do not offer a Sociology 5 equivalent. So in most cases, that'll mean a couple things. So one is submitting a declaration form, which we'll go over in a minute, and then also enrolling in Sociology 5, and just, making sure that you include in your declaration, we have an online declaration form, so making sure that you include an unofficial transcript. So although you may have submitted your transcript to the university, the interface hasn't happened yet where we will gain access to your transcript. So that's why we do ask for an unofficial transcript to be attached to the declaration form. That way we have an opportunity to be able to look up on Assist and confirm that you took the correct Intro to Sociology and Statistics course. As Sang mentioned earlier, if you're transferring in from another four-year institution, even if it's another UC campus, or from a community college from outside of California, then we're going to potentially need to be able to submit your syllabi to our faculty for them to evaluate.
Mm-hmm. Let me answer some more questions. So someone has already been added to Soc 5 because they filled out the Google form and they wanted to know if they wanted to change sections, can they do that? So you do not have access to the enrollment system until your appointment, and that you can find that date on your Cal Central account. I think it's November 14th. If you want to change it right now, then email me and I will change it for you. But once your appointment starts, then you yourself can go into the enrollment system and change it. So there's a couple of different functions on the enrollment system. I think it's like add, drop, but there's a swap, which is basically a switch. So if you, at that point, once you have access to enrollment system and you want to switch your discussion sections, then you would use the swap function. So when you use the swap function, you're not dropped from the class, they're just changing you to a different discussion section. If you drop and then try to add, you could lose your spot because enrollment system, it updates pretty quickly. So don't do that. So if you want to change, once you have access to enrollment system and you want to change, use the swap function. And then there's another question from Erica. So she's taking a Soc 5 class at community college. She wants to know if she should send the transcript when the class ends or for it right now. So Erica, first, I hope you checked on this list right here to make sure that you're taking the equivalent class. And if you are, then you would just send the official transcripts to the university once you finish the course. However, you may just send to Christina and I when you are ready to declare. You might just ask you for proof of enrollment because that's what you would need to declare the major.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone tried to actually add Soc 5, but it says it requires permission. If you could try using logging into your Berkeley account, your Cal Central account, and then accessing the Google Docs, I think that's a setting that I used. But if that doesn't work, then send me an email. But everyone else, a lot of people have been able to submit that Google form, but try that first.
Yeah, and in general, you should start getting into the habit of checking your Berkeley email account very regularly, because if the university needs to contact you, it's very likely that they'll do it with that email address as opposed to your personal one.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a question from Alondra. Can I send my course syllabus to you from the course that you took for the possible course equivalent? So Christina mentioned this earlier. If you think you're taking an equivalent course to UC Berkeley Soc 5, you would just send us the syllabus to either me, Christina. We would forward it to the director of undergraduate studies. She would take a look at it and she would tell us whether or not it's equivalent.
Mhm. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that we wouldn't be the body that decides the articulation for all of your community college courses. There's a separate transfer evaluation unit that goes through the process of identifying which classes you've taken are UC transferable and which ones are not. And they also implement whatever policies need to be put into effect. For example, like, they'll limit you to only 4 PE units. No more than 4 PE units are allowed. No more than 70 California Community College units are allowed to transfer over. So we wouldn't make that determination. There's a central evaluation unit that'll do that. It may take a few months before that transfer credit report posts onto Cal Central. So just, try and do the best you can to be patient. And in the meantime, attach the unofficial transcript to your declaration form.
Right. So I have so someone wants to know the difference between the surveys and electives. So I mentioned that earlier, but I'll go over it because I think a lot of students get confused about that.
Mm-hmm.
The surveys all the surveys are listed here. These are your choices right here. These are the only choices. So you'll notice that they end in 0 from 110 to 180. And they're just general themes within sociology. Electives are the ones that don't end in 0, like 133, 163, 189.
Mm-hmm.
And electives are more specific topics in one of these themes. So any classes in the 130s, like 131, 133, are more specific topics in one of these themes. So those are the differences. Christina, or you want to go on to the next section?
If you go back to the I guess section 3, I think it is, just to show them the declaration form and Soc 5 form.
Okay.
I think.
Did I totally forget that? Oh yeah, I did.
I think I don't know, you may have covered Soc 5. I don't remember. So
okay.
Not the declaration yet.
Oh, sorry, you guys. I totally forgot. So if you do need to take Soc 5 in spring, you just click here and it should bring you to this Google Doc. Right. So this is what it looks like. It'll ask you for your Berkeley email address, your first name, last name, email address. So some people will actually submit this and they've already completed the equivalent. So if you've completed the equivalent, please don't fill this out because you wouldn't need to take it at Berkeley. It won't let me go for it. So then it'll ask you, the next page, it'll ask you which section you would prefer. So we'll get this and we usually add you within like 2 days or 3 days. So it'll happen quickly. So if you do need Soc 5, you would go ahead and just fill this out. So this gives you more information. If you did, I think we mentioned this earlier, if you're coming from a community college outside of California, or you attended a 4-year, if you're transferring from a 4-year institution, then you would submit the syllabus to us and we would have it evaluated. So to declare the major, it's another Google form. This is what it is. And then so you would just fill this out. And if there's any questions about it, if we have any questions for you, we'll go ahead and email you. Usually takes about a week or so for you to be declared. So a lot of spring 21 transfer students have already filled it out. So we'll go ahead and declare you. I think it's Tuesday, November 24th. But once you're declared, we'll go ahead and send you an email. You've been declared. You will be declared. Oh yeah, it says November 24th. And so once you are, so right now it'll show that you're undeclared in the College of Letters and Science. When you are declared, it'll just say Sociology BA. Let's see, there's some questions.
Yeah, there's a few other chat questions. Is that okay if we answer a couple questions?
Yeah.
Let's see. Do we make an appointment to figure out our education plan for our time at Berkeley and to figure out our spring 21 schedule? We'll talk a little bit about the spring 21 schedule. I can't remember which section the samples are on, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. As far as the educational plan, the university doesn't require you to do an ed plan through the campus. However, you're certainly welcome to email either of us and we can send you a link to make an appointment with either of us so that we can start talking about your potential plan or schedule. It's pretty individual, based on every student's circumstances. So for example, if you're a student parent or if you're in the disabled student program and you're going to be doing a reduced course load, it might mean that you might need more than the 4 semesters that you're entitled to be at Berkeley. For most folks, you're entitled to have 4 terms at UC Berkeley, but you're also welcome to take summer session courses as well. In December, the summer schedule of classes will go up so that you'll be able to see courses that are offered in the summer. And we usually offer surveys and electives each summer as well. So in case you ever are interested in taking sociology courses then. Another question is that once transcripts are sent over for evaluation, how long will it take to be updated? So for our purposes, you only submit the unofficial transcript as part of your declaration form. And that's just for us to be able to see that you completed the prerequisites, Introduction to Sociology, Statistics, and possibly a Sociology 5 equivalent. As far as the university, and them evaluating your transcripts, it might take them much longer. So potentially during the whole spring semester for them to evaluate. It's a very small office and they have thousands of transcripts to go through. So it'll take a little bit of time. So if you get to the end of the spring semester and transfer credit is still not posted, then it's definitely important to follow up. Someone took a Sociology 5 equivalent at Santa Barbara over the summer and turned in the official transcript. Where do I check if my transcripts credits have transferred? Again, it'll probably take the whole spring semester for that information to post. But when you send us the unofficial transcript on the declaration form, hopefully that information will be there so that we can use it on November 24th in order to declare you. What if I'm not sure if I did complete the equivalent? Can I fill out the form anyway, just to be sure before I find out if the course I did take was equivalent? So earlier Sang showed the community college spreadsheet of equivalent courses. If your course is not on there, that means that your course is not considered equivalent at this time. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's really important to our faculty for the Sociology 5 course to cover both quantitative and qualitative methods. And a lot of community college do not cover each area thoroughly enough for the course to be considered equivalent and approved. So that's why there's a very small number of courses that do offer an equivalent class. You can send us a syllabus for it to be evaluated, but there's no guarantee that our faculty will approve it. What if I want a minor? How will that work? Generally, a minor is about 5 or 6 classes. And generally for that, you just have to plan, ahead in order to make sure that you're pretty intentional about when you schedule your classes, that all your classes will count towards either your major or your minor. So Sang is showing on the guide.berkeley.edu website where you can look to try to sort through the different minors that are available. Not every department that exists on campus offers a minor. So for example, we don't offer a minor, although we do offer a sociology major. So anyway, it's a good way. Checking this website and looking through this list is a good way to get an idea of what minors are available so that you can go to their website, take a look at the classes that are required, and then, try to be intentional about your planning. Each program also varies in terms of how they do their declaration process. Some people, like the education minor, for example, they do info sessions. So you might have to attend an info session before you can officially declare their minor. One thing to keep in mind is that you can overlap no more than one upper division course between your major and your minor. So for example, if your minor has a bunch of sociology courses that they would accept as equivalent and satisfy their electives requirement, that's great. But you can only use one that would potentially double dip between the two. So for example, some education minors might take Sociology 113 or 113 AC and use it for both the major and the minor. Let's see. Well, we're going to keep moving forward and then maybe come back to the questions. So let's see. I don't know if we covered everything on that page. How to declare.
Schedule planning.
Yeah, the next section is about schedule planning. So one of the things that that can be helpful in determining what kind of classes you might be interested in taking is taking a look at our previous syllabi. So we have a section on our website under About where you can look at previous syllabi. And, it varies from term to term, especially now that we're doing distance learning. The syllabus might change during remote classes, but you can pull up a class and just look, okay, previously Social 150, how was it taught? What kind of weekly topics were discussed? What kind of readings are there? What kind of assignments are there? You can look at something like Sociology of the Family, browse through, and just get an idea of whether your expectations of what the class is about and what the actual class content are actually going to match, right? Another thing too is that if you took a class that had a similar topic at your California Community College, keep in mind that it's not considered duplication. So if you took a social inequalities class at your California Community College and you want to take Social 130, which is social inequality for us, your course at the community college was considered lower division freshman, sophomore standing class. And ours is a junior, senior standing course. So it's good preparation, but it's not considered the same thing. And that course at the community college will not count as an elective. Another thing too is under area number 2, you'll be able to see that there's a sample set of schedules. Consider this in pencil. It doesn't have to look this way, but these are just some examples of how it could potentially look. So I think sample 2 is really common because most community college students need to complete Soc 5. So they'll pick up Soc 5 and potentially add either a survey or an elective so that they make sure they're taking 2 Soc classes to make progress in the major. And then there are additional courses that are outside of sociology. They might also add something like Sociology 198 BC, which is Berkeley Connect, which is just 1 unit, or they might take a 1 unit transfer transition course, or what we call decals, which are student facilitated classes. So 13 units is full-time standing for the College of Letters and Science. So for most folks, taking 13 units is a good idea in the first semester. 13 to 15, I think, is pretty standard as a first semester schedule. I certainly would not recommend doing more than 15 units. And for some folks, if you're super excited about getting started with theory, you've been waiting all this time to transfer, just not everybody wants to start out their first semester by taking Soc 101. In that first sample schedule, there's Soc 5 and Soc 101 together. A lot of our transfer folks prefer not to take them together just because they're both time consuming. So you have lecture twice a week, you have discussion section twice a week. Soc 101 is the fundamentals, like theory. You're reading original text. It's Marx, Durkheim, Weber, other theorists. So it's really dense material, which is why, it's 5 units. Not to say that, you wouldn't be successful in Soc 101. Most folks do fine in the class, but just, everybody's situation is a little different. So it's important to keep in mind, in addition to your coursework, what other responsibilities do you have that are also going to be taking up your time? So Soc 5 and 101, not necessarily the preferred schedule, but you can certainly pursue that if you want to. Another thing to keep in mind about 101 is that you'll gain access to 101 after you're officially declared in the major after the 24th of November. Like I mentioned earlier, Soc 5 and a survey or an elective, I think, is the most common class, that the most common schedule. So 2 Soc courses toward the major and then a 3rd course outside of the department. Most students will decide to take a class that's an upper division course. So something numbered 100 to 199 that's not in sociology. Sample 3, for somebody, for example, who sample 3 and 4 might be for somebody who is not, has already completed a Soc 5 equivalent. So if you're interested in theory and you want to get into that course, you might do sample schedule 3 and take Soc 101 and an elective, for example. If you're debating between maybe sociology and another major, you might consider doing 2 electives or a survey and an elective, such as the sample for schedule shows, and maybe exploring a class in the other major that you're considering, for example. Okay, if you can go back really quick, saying one of the things that's really great under item number 3, I'm a paper person, so I know it's not like great in these times where we're being electronic, but I really appreciate having a checklist format. So this is a nice worksheet that folks can use in order to keep track of the major. The 3 prerequisites are there: theory, 101 and 102. One thing to keep in mind is that you do need a C- or better in 101 before you can move on to 102. So you can't take both courses together. And then you see the 2 survey requirements are listed there: 3 upper division social electives and the seminar. Most folks will generally do the seminar in the senior year. So in this first semester, Soc 5 and a survey or an elective, Soc 101 and a survey or an elective, or maybe 2 electives or 2 surveys are probably the most common routes that people take in the first semester. So 2 Soc classes, and then something else outside of the major is also very common. So let's see. Let's go back to the other page really quick, and then I'll answer a couple questions. So under other information, so if a student comes in as a community college transfer student, and if you've successfully completed the IGETC certification, generally there's 4 things that you're concerned about in order to successfully graduate. So after you completed IGETC, those 4 things include the major requirements, which we talked about a little earlier and were on that worksheet. The other thing is the American cultures requirement. So that's just a university requirement. Everybody has to do it. It's just 1 class, but there is an opportunity for you to overlap your classes if you wanted to. So you're welcome to kind of double dip American cultures with the sociology major if you want. There's a couple that are listed there, like Sociology 111 AC and 130 AC. So anything that has that suffix, I guess, of AC at the end, they're generally courses that will satisfy American cultures. We have a 111 AC, 130 AC. Sometimes we have 113 AC, which is education, or 131 AC as well. So we usually offer a couple every semester. The one that you would not take is Soc 3 AC, because if you've already taken Intro to Sociology, there's partial duplication there. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, or the last 2 things, I guess, have to do with units. So under number 3 there, you'll see that students are required to do 6 units of upper division outside of the major. So it's pretty much anything. It can be several 1 or 2 unit courses. It can be more than 6 units. If you're doing a minor, for example, you'll end up doing more than 6 units. Anything that's numbered 100 to 199, that's not in sociology. And it can be for a letter grade or for pass no pass. Lastly is having a minimum of 120 units in order to officially graduate. That's our minimum required unit amount in order for folks to graduate. So you are allowed to transfer no more than 70 California Community College units, and then the remaining units have to be done through Berkeley to get to the 120 that you need to graduate. So let me see.
Christina,
There's a little bit of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So this particular requirement here, that one's very confusing to a lot of students because they're like, oh, what classes should I take? I thought it's only taking sociology classes. No, the college actually does require you to take units outside of the major. And students will ask me like, what should I take? It should be something that you're interested in that you can get into. One of the things that's really nice about this page is that there's a Twitter feed that's run through the university. And these are courses that departments want students for. And so there's like thousands of classes at Berkeley. And there's a lot of different departments, and these departments, they want more students. And so you can actually go on here and see what classes, what non-sociology classes are being offered. And so like this particular class, this is Afro-Am 100 Black Intellectual Thought. So these are just different classes that departments want more students, and they want more bodies in the classes. So this will give you an idea of what classes are being offered. like History 1, 14B. These are all upper division. These are upper division classes. They all have lower division classes as well. But this is just an idea. Like if you're really not sure, what's offered and what you can take, just take a look at here and see what's being offered. This is a lower division class, which you can actually do. But if you're looking just for upper division classes, then this is a good, oh, this is a lower division class. That sounds interesting, right, Anime? It just gives you an idea what you could possibly take. So it's, yeah, we get a lot of questions about that. Like, what should I take?
Yeah, and as you start to get introduced to other students,
Mm-hmm.
you can pick their brains too about what kind of classes they've enjoyed. Half of the folks that are declared in sociology are transfer students. So you're in good company, and there's a lot of folks who have gone through what you're currently going through, you know, in this transition. So they can be a great resource as well.
The other thing is, if you go back to the class schedule, you can actually filter for upper division classes. Like just click on Spring 21, any of these other filters, and then you could just pick upper division classes. There's like 1900. So you can just click on that. You can also click if you want specific days or times, the number of units, and there are all these other filters that you can use. If
And
you
whether
want,
it's open or not too.
yeah, whether or not it's open. If you want classes in other social sciences, like if you really want history classes, you just click on that and it'll bring it up for you.
So there's a lot of questions in the chat. So I'm going to try and address a couple of those. Let's see. If I was not able to upload my unofficial transcript as a PDF on my declaration, is it okay if I sent it in as a form of a screenshot? That's fine. If we have trouble opening any attachment, we'll contact you. Where do I send my unofficial transcript? So for our purposes, in order to declare the major, you would attach it at the very end of the, on the online declaration form. At the very end, there's actually a prompt that'll ask you to upload an unofficial transcript there. If I already took Soc 5, do I need to submit the declaration form? Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, even if you may have submitted your transcript to the university, that interface hasn't happened, so we don't have access to it yet. It's possible it might be scanned and visible somewhere on Cal Central, but it's just easier for us to get the unofficial transcript from you directly. So if you're interested in declaring sociology as your major, you would fill out the online declaration form and then attach an unofficial transcript there, even if you already took Soc 5. So you just wouldn't request placement into Soc 5 if you already took it at your community college. For spring, our schedules should include 101 and Soc 5, or can those be taken in the fall? You don't have to take both of those together. You're welcome to if you want to, but you can do either Soc 5 or 101, or you could take both. 101 is offered every semester, so you can start Soc 101 in the spring, do 102 in the fall, or you can wait to do Soc 101 in the fall and do Soc 102 in spring 22. Soc 5 we offer every semester as well, and actually a lot of times in the summer as well. So it's up to you. Let's see. All students who want to declare, oh, that's from Sang, need to submit a declaration form. If you don't need Soc 5, you still need to, you don't need to submit it. If you're not able to submit it, upload a document, you can email sociadvise@berkeley.edu. How can we check if we met the requirement for American cultures? So eventually, American cultures is not time sensitive. You don't have to do it in the very first semester that you're at Berkeley. You're welcome to if you want to. And even if you satisfied American cultures at your community college, you can still take American cultures courses here at Berkeley. Again, you can take something that like 111 AC, for example, that can be used as an elective for the major that will also take care of American cultures. Eventually on Cal Central, when you look at your My Academics page, there'll be a box there that says degree requirements, and it'll eventually populate with information about American history and institutions, entry-level writing, and also American cultures. So if you think you did American cultures at your community college, it'll eventually update there by the end of the spring semester. Can I do pre-law while being a sociology major? Pre-law is not a specific major, and there's no specific major tied to it. So if you wanted to prepare for law school, you certainly could, by, you know, taking courses that will help to make you a, you know, more competitive candidate. Maybe if you're interested in taking the sociology of law, great, you can take that course and use it towards a major. Or maybe you might want to take additional writing courses or courses in philosophy. Great, those folks do really well on the LSAT. So it's really up to you. And on the career.berkeley.edu website, they actually have some good information and timelines and examples of information that you can use in preparation for graduate school. So career.berkeley.edu is our Career Center website. And a little bit further down, or maybe back in the other section actually, yeah, they have information about graduate and professional school. And one of those sections includes law school. So like I said, they have timelines, they have information about the LSAT, about courses, personal statements. So I think that will be really helpful to prepare for law school. One question was also about when will we see how many units were transferred from our community college and how many more we will need. So again, it might take that whole spring semester for you to really be able to see the transfer credit report that documents how many units you transferred in with. In the meantime, you may just need to kind of guesstimate, is it closer to 60 or closer to 70? Do they offer Social 101 in the summer? No, we do not. We never offer theory in the summertime. You've been asking your admissions officer questions, but they haven't replied. Am I able to change or request someone else so they can guide me through my transition to Berkeley? I don't believe that you can change your admissions officer. I'm not sure about that process, but you can always check in with Sang or myself if you have general questions, and we'll see if we can help. Mm-hmm. Some of it might just be, you know, time. Like for example, the transfer work might not be the units and all that kind of stuff. It might take the whole semester for that to be posted. One of the things right now is just to make sure that they have all your documents. Looking on the system to make sure, did they receive your transcript, your high school transcript, your IGETC certification? I think those are the things that are the most time sensitive. Let's see. Other questions. Oops. Let's see. Is sociology of law offered every semester? Not necessarily. I think we try to offer it once a year. A lot of it will depend on whether we have an instructor to teach it. So maybe not every semester, but it's good to check. Occasionally, the sociology of law course in legal studies will be approved. I think it's legal studies 184. Is that right?
Yes.
So occasionally that class will be approved. So if you ever have questions about that, you can check with us. I think the one for spring 2021 is already approved, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you wanted to take sociology of law through legal studies this spring, then that's an option because it's already been approved as an elective for our major. Does this meeting count towards completing our Golden Bear orientation, or do we need to schedule an individual appointment? So yes, I mean, there's stuff for GBO online. Mm-hmm. So you do all that stuff, but the Golden Bear advising for your department, we don't have modules for you to go through. This is what we do instead. So can I minor outside of LNS? So for example, through public policy? Yes, absolutely. Public policy has a minor, like I mentioned, education earlier. So it's totally fine if you do a minor outside of the College of Letters and Science. You just have to go through their process to apply and you know, officially declare the minor. Let's see. I think that's it for now.
Open it up to questions.
Yeah.
You're just gonna unmute yourself and ask if you have any questions. No questions.
And it can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about sociology. I mean, we'd probably know the most about the social questions, but yeah.
I was just wondering if you can take multiple languages in one semester.
If you can get into them.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you meet the prerequisites, like for example, if like you want to take Spanish 4, which is basically being fluent, if you're able to get into it because you met the prerequisites, then you can add that class. But yeah, if you can get into the language classes are pretty small, 15, 20 students sometimes, maybe sometimes even less. So
And
Yeah.
also, you said that classes from your community college won't be fully put in until like probably like around the spring semester. So if
yeah,
I had already taken a class at my community college for the language, would I not be able to get into like the one that follows it because it hasn't registered in your system yet?
you'll have to check in with the department. They might be willing to just take an unofficial transcript from you and then determine whether or not the courses you took at your community college are equivalent to the prerequisites at Berkeley.
Okay.
For our fall 2020 admits, some of them are still waiting for their transfer work to post, and they've been told that it might take until the end of fall 2020 for it to post. So it's taking a while.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions? Some students do ask us if they could take lower division classes. So depending on the level, let's like, for example, lessons they ask me if they can take like a foreign language. And typically those are like lower division courses, and you can. So you do have to do a certain number of upper division units. That's a requirement of the college. But as long as you remember that and take enough of those, you can certainly take lower division classes. A lot of people, I've had a lot of students asking about Latin and Greek, and I'm like, yeah, you can take that if you can get into it. Just remembering that you need to do a certain number of upper division units as well. And as long as you do that, then it should be fine for you to take lower division units because some of them are pretty interesting. And if once you see that you have space in your schedule to take non-sociology classes, then there's going to be opportunities for you to consider lower division classes as well. So
Yeah. And there's another question in the chat that asks, what is the maximum number of units that I can take in one semester? So when you have your appointment time to register for classes, instead of the normal kind of 13.5 unit limit that students have in phase 1, which is their first opportunity to enroll in classes, you'll be similar to what we call phase 2, where it's the student's second opportunity to enroll in classes. So you will actually be already at 17.5 units. So you should be permitted to enroll in and waitlist up to 17.5 units when your appointment time happens in November. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I mean, you certainly can enroll, say, in like 4 courses that are 4 or 5 units. But I would definitely keep in mind the dates, the deadlines for adding and dropping classes, because that's a lot. I think sticking to 13 is generally the most common for the first semester schedule. There's a lot of transition, not just, there's a lot of new policy and bureaucracy that you're navigating. There's a lot of new systems, like what is CalCentral? How do I even add classes? And then socially and just personally, there's probably a lot of transition as well. So it's important to give yourself some wiggle room to be able to make those changes. And to also start to find out about other things. Maybe you're interested in undergraduate research and what that looks like. You might go to research.berkeley.edu and then just subscribe to their newsletter so you can start getting information and just hearing more about it. Let's see, there's another question.
Yeah,
Is there a maximum number? Oh, that's the one we just did.
is there a minimum non-social classes we need to take?
Oh, yeah, minimum amount of non-social classes we need to take. So it's not by number of classes. I think like we showed on the website earlier, it's 6 units of upper division outside of sociology that's required. You can do more than 6 units and that's totally fine, but at least 6 units worth of upper division that's not sociology. Again, it can be, 1 and 2 unit courses or 3 and 4 unit classes. So as long as you get to a total of 6 units upper division that's not labeled sociology. Well, we know more about the 7-course breadth during Golden Bear orientation. So if you completed the IGETSI certification, then IGETSI should have taken care of the 7-course breadth requirement. If you did a UC reciprocity agreement, that should have also taken care of 7-course breadth requirement. So I'm not sure if they'll go over it through GBO. They might,
Yeah,
because not everybody has IGETC. But yeah, if you did do IGETC, then you've already satisfied it.
mm-hmm.
Could it be possible to graduate in spring 22 since I'm starting in spring 21? Is that possible? Potentially. You would have to be very intentional about your planning, and probably do summer and probably take more than 13 units. And that'll be heavily dependent on how many units you transfer in. So if you transferred in 70 units, which is the maximum, it might be a little bit easier to navigate. If you're transferring in 60 units, that might be a lot tougher to make happen. But at some point you can set up a time to talk with Sang or myself and we can go into more detail about that.
Yeah.
How and when do we join the honors program? So that's a good question. So the only way for students to get honors within the Department of Sociology is by participating in an honors thesis program. So our honors thesis program is generally something you do in the senior year. And in order to be eligible for that program, one of the challenges that our transfer students run into is that in addition to a GPA requirement, there's also a requirement that students have at least 4 upper division sociology classes in order to be eligible. Now, because of that, because it's tough for some people to have 4 upper division classes, especially as spring admits, we do allow folks to use summer for eligibility purposes. So you can take summer courses and do some upper division social classes in the summer in order to be eligible if you wanted to be. Our honors thesis program, you apply in the summertime. If you're selected for that program, because we only select up to 30 students, then it's a 2-semester commitment. So you do honors 190A in the fall and the honors 190B in the spring. And the 190A can count as an elective for the major, and the 190B in the spring can count towards the seminar requirement. Now it varies for our spring admits with regard to how they engage in the honors program. Sometimes some folks will just load up and do, maybe 2 social classes in spring, do another 2 in the summer, apply in the summer. If they're admitted, they start that following fall. Other folks opt to try to ask the College of Letters and Science if they can extend their time in order to participate in the honors program. So they might be here in spring 21, for example, be here for fall 21, spring 22, and then summer 22, they apply. And then if they get admitted, then they ask LNS if they could be allowed to stay for fall 22 and graduate spring 23. So that's another option. To schedule an appointment with an advisor, where do I go? Or will I have access to both of you as our advisors? My enrollment date is November 10th. I want to be prepared. So you're welcome to email either of us, and then we can send you a link for how to make an appointment with us. I think the sample schedules can be a helpful tool to take a look at under the scheduling section of the transfer pages. We recorded this and we'll see if we can post it as well on our YouTube channel, and you're welcome to listen to it again if you want. I don't know. And then, but yeah, you can email us directly and we'll send you info about our calendars. Any other questions? You're welcome to unmute yourself or to write it in the chat.
And if you can't think of questions now, you can always email us later, because I'm sure questions will come up later. I want to show you the College of Letters and Science, their website.
Okay.
If you want to make appointments with the college, there's a couple ways that you can check in with them. They may not see new students until a little bit later on, but when they are seeing students, you can actually just go. You can go to this website and it'll give you more information. So they have a virtual front desk and email. So you can either go to their virtual front desk where they have, I think, like their they're not student assistants, they're advising assistants, and they can answer your quick questions there. You can also send them an email. And they have other information about major minor questions, schedule planning, how to schedule. So that gives you information about majors, which Christine and I are majors, but this is probably what's helpful to you, how to schedule an LNS college advising appointment. So you can go there and get more information, how to schedule an appointment with them. So it's just here. So as we mentioned earlier, Emilio and Marisol are liaisons, but if you need to actually make an appointment and neither one of them have appointments, then you can just go ahead and make an appointment with any of these other LNS advisors. I think they only schedule appointments 3 or 4 days out. So if it doesn't, if there's not an appointment, you just have to check back.
Mm-hmm. And there's another question in the chat about, would 2 years of foreign language completed in high school fulfill the foreign language requirement for letters and science? It's a good question. It's tricky. It depends on whether you did IGETC or not. So I believe for the purposes of fulfilling the IGETC certification, that 2 years is sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you did not complete IGETC, 2 years is not enough. So for the College of Letters and Science, they have a requirement where you need to complete the 3rd year level or 3rd year high school level of a foreign language. If you did not, then you would have to do, I think it's the 2nd semester level, no, of the foreign language. I mean, you can certainly do that here or at Berkeley if you needed to, but it depends on whether you completed IGETC or not. Is anybody transferring from a 4-year institution at all? No, maybe not. Okay. Just because if you were transferring from a community college outside of California or from a 4-year institution, it'd be great to get your syllabi for Intro to Soc and Statistics now. That way we can start asking the faculty to evaluate it. Let's see. So another question came in. I did take 2 years of foreign language in high school, but I also completed IGETC, so am I okay? Yes. The IGETC certification is great. It just like lump sum kind of takes care of a bunch of requirements. So what the College of Letters and Science calls essential skills, as well as the 7-course breadth, all get taken care of with the IGETC certification. So when that happens, then like I mentioned earlier, you just have those 4 things to worry about. So your major requirements, American cultures, 6 units of upper division outside the major, and then the 120 units. And that way you can plan to focus on those 4 things in order to be able to graduate. Can transfer students change their majors? That's a good question. It's tough. Your time is limited, right? You have the 4 semesters that you're entitled to as a transfer student. So you would have to be really informed. Yeah, informed about what that major looks like, be proactive about contacting the major advisors, and really intentional about your planning. So for example, if you were thinking about another major and sociology and you're not really sure, say it's media studies, for example, it would be really important for you to take a look at all the media studies requirements. And in that particular case, they have a whole list of sociology courses that can be used towards their major. Mm-hmm. So you can look and see what things overlap between the 2 and maybe take 1 or 2 classes that work for both. That way you're making progress either way. And in the meantime, just continue getting informed about each major, what it's about, and be able to decide which one's going to be a better fit for you. Let's see. Oh, if someone is a part-time student, can they stay more than 4 semesters? Potentially. So we have had, for example, student parents or folks that work a lot of hours, especially during these times, for example, where it's necessary for them to work a lot of hours, or folks that maybe are registered for the Disabled Students Program and part of their accommodations includes doing a reduced course load. If you have a reduced course load approved, and it needs to be approved by the college, then yes, you could potentially ask to stay beyond the 4 semesters. But you could potentially ask to stay beyond the 4 semesters if you have another interest too. So hopefully, say, by spring 22 or at some point, you may want to study abroad. And if study abroad comes back, then it's possible you might be able to ask for an extra semester to be able to do that. So if you have questions about doing an extra semester, you can always check in with us. Is it recommended to double major? I think it's a personal decision. You certainly don't have to double major. If you are double majoring, it's ideal for it to be something you're really interested in and committed to. But you don't have to. Yeah.
Like there's any more questions. No. Any last questions? Program.
So can we provide more information about accelerated program plans?
And
so I think, so if, for example, you were interested in trying to still graduate by spring 22, it's just a lot of planning on your part. And we can meet individually. You can meet individually with Sang or myself, and we could talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But just keep in mind that it's good to plan, but part of it will also be heavily dependent on how many units you transfer in. Because that can sometimes potentially pose a challenge, especially if you're transferring in just 60 units from a community college, because that means that you have another 60 units to make up at Berkeley, and to do so in 3 semesters is kind of a lot. We certainly wouldn't recommend folks to do 20 units each term, right? So yeah, but if you're closer to 70, then it may potentially be feasible. You would just have to make sure to be intentional, especially when it comes to something like theory. So surveys and electives we offer every semester and in the summertime. Whereas, so you do summer 21 and summer 22, for example, to get those requirements taken care of. Whereas theory, it's only fall or spring. So you'd either have to start Social 101 in spring 21, or make sure that you take 101 in fall 21 so that you can finish 102 by spring 22 at the latest.
It's a question about research. Here. If you're interested in research, we have a great office on campus where you can actually take a look at all the different research opportunities. I think going through here would be good. The other thing is we actually have a peer advisor who is, there's a social student who's a peer advisor in this office. She's also part of the honors program. She actually has office hours, I think on Wednesdays in the morning. Let me see if I could just find the information, and you can actually just check in with her and she can talk about her experience.
Peer advising, yeah.
Yeah, peer advising. So Kara, so if you wanted to check in with her, you could, and you can ask her. I think she also did the Haas Scholars Program. So you can ask her about her research. I think there's a little bio on this page about her. So this is her right here. It gives you a little bit more information about her. I think usually what a good program for new students is URAP. This is a good program for students to start off. They will have their spring 21 applications. Let's see, January. So you can come back and take a look at the different opportunities that's offered through there.
Yeah, and you can look at the stuff that's under sociology, because sometimes our faculty will participate in URAP, but you can certainly apply to non-sociology programs as well, through other departments. So anything that really sparks your interest. And URAP is great because it's already a structured program that's set up for you. You just, can go ahead and apply and select a couple different projects that you're interested in and see which one you're admitted to.
Yeah. There's a question about residence requirements. Um, is that the senior residence requirement that you're asking about?
Or
Is
for
there,
tuition purposes.
yeah, we might need a little bit of clarification on that.
Mhm.
It's a College of Letters and Science does have a senior residency requirement, but unless you're going to be away from the university for different reasons, um, it's usually not a concern. We do have students who take a break and they do like uh, non-study abroad programs through the university, and that might be that, you know, when that is the case, senior residency, I mean, there is a discussion that has to happen with that. But if you're going to do most of your time here at Berkeley, all 4 semesters, then senior residency isn't a requirement, isn't an issue at all.
Mhm. If it's residency for tuition purposes, then the university, they determine what that looks like and what kind of documentation they need in order to be able to make that determination. So that's why it's really great to start taking a look at Cal Central to get comfortable with that, and also to start looking at your Berkeley email address, just in case you're being asked for any kind of documents or to submit any kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was doing the Golden Bear advising, what I'm asking about the resident requirements is that it said as an LNS student, you must also complete a minimum of 18 units of upper division courses in residence and 12 of which must be in your major program. So does that mean I have to be on campus, or I'm not just really understanding what the resident requirements are.
Mm-hmm.
So you more than likely you will get the 18 upper division units in residence, because you have to do you'll probably do most of your major requirements on campus or through campus. Even like if it's remote, it's considered on through campus. So that has not really been an issue for students.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever come across that problem at all.
No, just by doing the major, you'll take care of it.
Yeah.
It would only be an issue, like Sang mentioned earlier, if you were going to be studying abroad for a semester or a year or something like that. But you'll take care of it just by doing the major.
Mm-hmm.
And then, remote distance learning in the spring, it's still Berkeley. So everybody's in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it is still used towards that residency requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, once your information is in Cal Central and updated and everything, we'll be able to show you an academic progress report. At some point, maybe later at the end of the spring semester, if we do any one-on-one advising with any students, there's an option under the degree requirements section of Cal Central, your My Academics page, where it says academic progress report. And that's pretty much a degree audit. So you click on it, it opens up this whole thing that shows you the university, college, and your major requirements. So the major requirements will post once you're officially declared in the major, and once your transfer work is posted. So that's why I said maybe the end of the semester or even in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you run that academic progress report, it'll kind of itemize everything for you. Most things will be satisfied just by having done a GETSI, but some of the other things like College of Letters and Science unit requirements, the units outside the major, your major requirements, you'll be able to see which areas are not satisfied or which areas are already completed.
Yeah. Oh, there's another question. So, the follow-up is, so I don't necessarily need to be on campus, even if it's online or for the residence requirement. If you're taking Berkeley classes, it's considered towards that, it will be used towards that residency requirement. So like all the classes you take next semester through campus, even if it's remote, it's going to be counted as residency. So classes are not considered through campus are any community college coursework, if you do any non-EAP, which is education abroad program, if you do any non-EAP programs, those are considered those won't count towards the residency requirement. If you take classes at other four-year institutions, those won't be counted. Yeah. We have a couple more minutes. Any last questions?
Alrighty. Well, if anything else comes up, you know, like Say mentioned, you're welcome to email either of us anytime. It's if you have trouble registering in any sociology class, other than Social 101, when your appointment time opens up, you're also welcome to check in with us about it as well. In the meantime, if you haven't already filled out the online declaration form and you're interested in declaring, feel free to go ahead and fill that out anytime, and make sure that you include and attach the unofficial transcript so that we can review it and make sure that you've taken the correct prerequisites.
Mhm. And just a little note, just a reminder that we'll declare spring 21 admits November, I think it's November 24th. I think the date's on there.
Yeah. And it's pretty, I mean, you'll see the change
Mhm.
Later that day or the next day or something too. So
Yeah. All right. I think that is it. Thank you guys for joining us. I look
yeah.
forward to meeting you guys in the future.
Mm.
Bye.